Hi everyone, it's Aga from EurekaCrystalBeads.com and I'm here with another fun beading tutorial for you. Before I get started, as always, don't forget to check out the rest of our channel, and if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss any of our content. In this video, we'll be making this lovely elegant bracelet that's made with our December 2024 collection called the Harmony Collection. This is the inspiration photo, and it contains all sorts of beautiful neutral colors, some light brown, some beige, some cream, some gray, both cool and warm toned, and that's what I wanted to use in this bracelet. This collection also contains a lot of seed beads. We have Miyuki beads, we have Toho beads, so that's what inspired me. I wanted to use all of those seed beads, or at least some of them, because I barely use half. But you can make this bracelet in more than one colorway with this collection, so it's going to be beige, but in a different way. I chose these colors because they matched with the beautiful crystals and the 6mm round beads. So yeah, it's quite easy to make. It's basically just 2 stitches. This is a square stitch for the bezels, and this is basically a modified version of the herringbone stitch. So without further ado, let me tell you a little bit about the materials you're gonna need to make this bracelet. So to make the bracelet, you're either going to need one December 2024 collection, the Harmony Collection, or the following beads and supplies. So we're going to be using some 8/0s, some 11/0s, and a little bit of 15/0s. They are all Miyuki here. But I'm also going to be using some of the beads from this mix that we included, and these are Toho. So I'm going to be using Toho 3mm bugles and some 11/0 demi-rounds that are also included in here. So we're going to be mixing it up a little bit when it comes to the beads and the brands. In addition to that, we're going to need some 6mm round beads. These are 6mm druk beads. They are check glass, but you can also use pearls, of course. Now for the centerpiece, we're going to be using a Krakowski 12mm Rivoli. And in the collection, we have this accent mix with all of the stones in the same color called satin. It's a beautiful color in between beige and gray and black diamond, and it has this very delicate shine coat to it. So you can use the 12mm one, but if you want a bigger one, you can use the 14mm Rivoli that's included in the mix. In here, I made it into a little easy pendant, so you can do that as well, or you can use it in the center of this bracelet. In addition to that, you're going to need a clasp, and I'll be using this beautiful hammered toggle clasp that was also in the collection. It's a Gleam Craft series clasp. It's gold plated and it's really pretty. There's kind of a rustic raw feel to it. Then we're of course going to need a needle, and I do recommend using a size 12, especially if you're using a 4-pound fireline or a nylon thread such as Nymo or 1G, which are also going to be great for this one. You can of course use a thicker thread like 6-pound fireline, and then maybe you could try using a size 11 needle, so the larger, thicker one. Finally, I'm going to be using some scissors to cut off the excess thread, and that's it. Let's start beading. First up, we're going to make a centerpiece for our bracelet, so we're going to bezel a 12mm chaton. For this, I'm going to pick up 20 8/0 beads. And for this one, I'm going to be using slightly more than half a wingspan of thread. Now that I have my 20 beads on, I'm going to go through all of them again from the same side, so that when I pull together, they form a circle. I'm gonna go through some more beads. Doesn't matter how many for this one. And you can put a stopper bead on it if you want, or a bead stopper, because at this point it's going to slide a little bit, but it's gonna stop in a second. Now we're going to be making a row with 11/0s, and at first I'm going to pick up 2 11/0 beads, and I'm gonna see where my thread is coming out of here. And I'm gonna go back through beads, starting from where my thread is coming out of. 1, 2, and I'm gonna go through these 2 beads, just like that, so that the 11/0s are placed above them or on top of them. Now I'm gonna go through these 2 11-0s here, like this. Now I'm going to be picking up a single 11-0. I'm gonna go 1-8-0 further from where my previous 11-0 is on top of, and I'm gonna go back 2. So this is basically square stitch, just with 2 sizes of beads. And as you can see now, if I want to go forward, I'm gonna go through 2 11-0 beads. Like that. It's all going to make sense further on. I pick up another single 11-0, and I'm gonna go back through that next 8-0 and the one that's below the previous 11-0 that I added. This is where I'm at. Now I can go forward 2 11-0s. I'm adding another 11-0 on top of the next 8-0, going back through 2 8-0s, and forward through the 2 11-0s on top, and you simply continue all the way around. This is gonna be my final 11-0 in this row. As you can see, there's only 1-8-0 that's missing an 11-0 on top of it. Depending on what colors of beads you're going to be using, especially if you're using Tohos and not Miyukis, or if your 11-0s are very thin or your 8-0s are very thick, you might want to add 2 beads instead of 1 in this row. If you find your 11-0s a little bit far apart, you might add just an extra one and just treat the 2 that you add at the end as if they were a single bead. I'm going to go through the 11-0s here one more time, just through the 11-0s to strengthen this row and make it a little bit more sturdy. Now I'm going to go through the 8-0 beneath the 11-0 that my thread is coming out of. I am going to flip over my work, and I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So starting with 2 11-0s, going around the 2 8-0s and forward through the 11-0s. I only want them to be placed on the other side, so right here. And around 2/3 in, so after 15 beads, around that, I'm going to put in my stone, and I'm going to continue with the stone inside already. Alright, I'll be putting my stone in. It doesn't matter which side, so you just slide it inside there, in between the layers of 11-0s, and you continue adding 11-0s with the stone inside there. Now I'm gonna close it up and go through all of those 11-0s again, or even 2 more times, just to make this row more sturdy. Now I'm going to go down the row of the 8-0s, and every second one I'm going to put in a demi-round. So I'm just putting a demi-round in between those 8-0s, just like that. And we want them to pop right in to create this kind of a nice pattern in that outer row. You can leave it like that, you cannot add anything, but these demi-rounds are also going to serve us later to connect the elements. And that's our bezel right there. I'm going to actually leave this bit of the thread to connect this bezel to the next one, and as for the tail, I'm going to trim it off and tie a knot, weave it in. Actually, now that I think about it, it makes sense to leave both ends of your thread to be able to connect both elements on the 2 sides of this bezel later on. Now for our second bezel, we're going to be bezeling a 6mm round bead. For this one, you're not going to need much thread, less than half a wingspan, but I'm not going to cut off the tail so that later on it's easier to go on with the rest of the bracelet with the same piece of thread. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through our 6mm bead, then we're going to pick up 6/8-ohs, and we're going to back up through that 6mm bead so that the 11/ohs fall right here on one side of it. Now I'm going to pick up 5/8-ohs. I'm going to go through the bead again so that these beads fall on the other side. I'm going to go through the 5 beads that I just added. And right away, I'm going to go through the 6 beads on the other side of my bead, connecting them on one side. Now to connect them on the other side, I'm going to need one more 8/0. So I do just that. And the beads now surround a 6mm round bead, and we can start bezeling. So again, I'm picking up 2 11/0s, going back through 2 8/0s underneath, and through the 2 11/0s that I just added. Now I'm going to be adding 1 11/0 at a time, going back through 2 8/0s, and forward through 2 11/0s. Now for this one, because the round bead is, well, more convex than a Rivoli, it may be actually obligatory to add an extra 11/0 in this row on top, so I'm just adding one. Don't forget to go through all of those 11/0s again. And now I'm gonna go down to the other side, flip my work over, and do the same on the other side. Now again, I'm going to put a demi-round in between each 2 8/0s. And at this point, if you're still using the same first end of the thread, you can tie a knot, weave it in, and cut off the end and leave the other end connected to your spool for the rest of the bracelet. Or you can use that as well to connect it to the main bezel. I already have mine ready in here, and I can connect it to that round bead bezel that I just made. So you want to be coming out of one of the demi rounds, and if you're connecting the second one on the other side, then just make sure that you're coming out of the demi round on the opposite side to where you attached your first round bead segment. And now we're just going to pick up an 11/0, then your segment, and I'm going through the demi round that's opposite to the one that I'm going to continue with my bracelet. I'm gonna pick up another 11/0, and I'm gonna go through that demi round in the main bezel again from the other side so that I create this kind of connection. I'm gonna go through it 2 more times, so through those 4 beads. Right now I don't need this thread anymore, so I'm going to weave it in. Now it's time to make this a lovely bracelet band. Over here, the full wingspan that I left here for myself is going to be definitely more than enough. And the way you do the rest of the bracelet is you start with 2 11/0s and you go around this demi in here, back up through that first 11/0, and we're gonna add our 6mm round bead right away, followed by 2 more 11/0s, and I'm going to slide that down and go back down through my 6mm bead, through one of the 11/0s underneath it, and I'm gonna fiddle with those 2 top beads so that they arrange themselves like that on top of the round bead. I'm gonna go through the demi again to reinforce the connection, And I'm going to go back up through the 11-0 on one side under the round bead. Now the fun part, we're going to pick up a bugle 11-0 and a bugle up through one of the 11-0s on top of the 6mm round. Just like that, it's going to frame the round bead a little bit. Now down this second 11-0. And I'm going to add the same sequence of bugles and an 11-0 on the other side, down through one of the bottom 11-0s under the round bead, through the demi again, because why not? Now up through the second 11-0, and I'm going to take the short route through the check round bead, and also one of the 11-0s on top of it, just like that. Now I'm going to add one of the intermediate sections, so the same but with an 8-0 instead of the 6mm check round. So I'm picking an 8-0 into 11-0s. I'm sliding down the 8-0, going through it again, through one of the 11-0s underneath, one of the two that are on top of the check round. I'm going to make sure that the top ones are positioned next to one another. Now I'm going to go straight back up through the other 11-0 in here, in through one of the 11-0s on top of the 8-0. Now a 6mm round again, into 11-0s. Back through the 6mm, one of the 11-0s on the bottom. Straight up back through the other 11-0. And now we're going to add our framing. Bugle 11-0 bugle, up through one of the 11-0s. Down through the other one. Bugle 11-0 bugle, down through one of the 11-0s in the bottom. And back up the other 11-0 in the glass 6mm. And one of the 11-0s on top of it as well. And that's the row. Now I'm gonna add the same segment or similar segment without the framing, but with an 8-0. And you continue with these for as long as you want your bracelet to be. For me, it's probably going to be 5 extra 6mm rounds on each side. And then we're going to attach the clasp and refine our strip a little bit because there's still something missing. So to attach the clasp, we're going to do our 8-0 segment a little bit differently. So I'm picking up an 8-0 and then 3 11-0s if you're adding the loop of the toggle and a little bit more. So 4 11-0s if you're adding the bar piece. I'm picking up the bar, 4 more 11-0s. I'm going to slide that down. And I'm going to go back through that 8-0 and the 11-0 beneath it. That should be enough for this to go through this loop here. Yes, it's gonna be perfect. Not too much. I'm gonna go back up and through all of the beads in this loop and the clasp twice more. Right, and now it's time to add like a stabilizing element because as you can see, this one, if it flips over, it flips over entirely, and in this case, it's kind of a little bit more flimsy with these 8-0s kind of being a turning point where everything can turn. We're gonna stop that. So I'm going down through the 11-0 and through the bugle and 11-0 and bugle on one of the sides. Doesn't matter which one. You want to be coming out of the bugle and about to be above the 8-0 in between the rounds. And you're gonna pick up a 15-0, 11-0, 15-0, so that's where the 15-0s come in. And you're just going to go through the next bugle in the next segment, connecting them just like that. Through the 11-0 on the next bugle, and another 3 beads, 15-0, 11-0, 15-0, up the next bugle. And you just go on like that until you reach that middle segment. My thread is coming out of the bugle next to this bezel segment here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to pick up just the 15-0 and 11-0, so just 2 beads, and I'm gonna go through the second in that nearest pair of 11-0s. So I'm skipping one 11-0 from the demi round that's connecting this bezeled piece to the rest of my bracelet. That's where I'm attaching the 2 so that kind of this point is also secured. It's not gonna flip over. Now I have to go all the way around this. Until my thread is coming out of one of the 2 8-0s on the other side. That's where I add my 2 beads, my 11-0 and my 15-0, and I'm free to continue on the other side. And the bracelet is ready. I made it perfect for my wrist. It fits very snug, so I think I'm gonna be wearing this all the time. It's so pretty, and I think what makes it this pretty are the beads and the colors and the kind of toned monochromatic a little bit palette, because it has all the cool beiges, all the warm beiges, some gray as well to it. I think this part would do great on its own, so go ahead and try making a full bracelet out of just these 6mm check beads. Let us know in the comments if you're gonna be making this. All of the materials, as always, can be found at eurekacrystalbeads.com. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next one. Bye!